and welcome to this week's podcast. Take the notice of us because let's keep it. No. This is this week's podcast episode. And it's our first one filming, so we're acting like complete twats for some reason. And we're not used to filming ourselves, so
this feels really weird.
We're
getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, so hey ho, here we go.
Let's go.
Oh, that rhymes.
She's anyway. She didn't even know it. Go.
So the next couple of episodes, we're gonna talk about some of the clinics that we've been on.
Yes.
But this one is going to be on the horsemanship showcase that we went to last November. So we've never been to one before, but we've been to a few of Larissa's clinics that she's held. But this was the first one of the horsemanship.
Larissa is the owner of Horsemanship Hub.
Yeah. And so... Yeah, so we've never been to a like natural horsemanship type. This was our first.
No, she does like a big thing where she puts everyone together under the same roof.
Yeah, from all different walks of life, basically. So we walked in, didn't really know what to expect, and to the point, actually, we didn't know what to expect. We hadn't been on a horsey clinic for ages.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh, it's a lovely little weekend away, just us to spend some time together. And to the point where you
shopping as well.
Yeah, so we didn't know what to wear. And so you packed.
No, because it was really mild. It was really mild, and then I didn't look at the weather forecast, which I always do, and realised that weekend it was going to drop to the point where it was -4.
It was snowing at home,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it -4
No,
every
it was
day?
really cold.
It was so cold. And I packed shoes.
No, it's
normal shoes.
We thought we were going to go around a bit like Horse of the Year, Olympia type thing, where you could walk around inside in like normal clothes. And she packed these little loafer shoes. And when we got there, it was -5 and snowing. And
I also packed other shoes. I didn't just pack those. I wasn't completely bugging.
Rooting through my car, looking for like coats, hats. You had to buy a bubble hat. I picked up the dog blankets to sit on. I was so cold.
Yeah, I took my Equidrive because I was literally like, I'm taking that just in case.
But the point is, we didn't really know what we was going into.
No, we had no idea.
So we turned up, it was bloody freezing, and it's just this big...
it's more like an indoor school.
Like multiple indoor schools, massive.
But you're still outside, like it's not heated, you're still like in the elements.
And there's loads of things going on all at the same time. So we walked in and we was a bit like... I was a bit overwhelmed because I was like, there's everything going on at the same time. We haven't really looked at the programme to see who we want to see at what time. So my brain went into...
And some of them were clashing when we looked as well.
I'm going to miss out on the things that I want to watch.
Yeah.
So we kind of walked in and was trying to get our bearings as to where everything was. But it was like we stepped out into... like Western world of America. Like we walked into cowboys, and I'm really behind on the time. I haven't been watching Heartland or whatever people have been obsessing over. So we walked into that indoor arena and literally cowboys in leather chaps, and I was like...
I say cowboys in Indian. Cowboys in leather chaps.
And I was like, oh, now I understand why that's a thing.
To put it politely. Oh my god!
And then we found ourselves standing by the round pen, and I clocked that Warwick was standing there just doing like a Q&A with like 3 other people.
Cowboys.
Yeah, and they like all demonstrating and talking about whatever they were talking about, and I remember just standing there like elbowing you like, it's Warwick! And you were like, yes, obviously it's Warwick, which we were really excited to go see. And then I suddenly just looked at you and was like, look at them cowboys in their leather chaps. And then I got over it. Clearly, you can see. It's now a thing. Anyway, so I had like a moment of, because we hadn't been to a horse clinic for ages, and I'd kind of been not really working with the horses, I had a real sense of like this is what we're meant to be doing. Like, this is how we're supposed to be spending our time. Like, I felt like I was coming home. I can't remember the first person we watched after that intro with Warwick, but I remember sitting down, and I think it was Ollie, I'm not sure, or Ben, and I remember sitting on them chairs.
I think it was Ollie.
And I remember thinking, it feels like coming home. Like, these are the people we should be surrounded by. Yeah. And there was people from all walks of life there, but we all had a communal, we want to be better with our horses. But it wasn't like your dressage, your jumping, your eventing, your western, your barrel racing, your any of that. It was like we're all there because we want to have a better relationship with our horses, and it was a very welcoming atmosphere.
Yeah, it was really
and I mean, there's a lot of Pirelli people there. I have no experience with Pirelli, but like there was people from all walks of life there, and I felt like these are the people that I should be surrounded with.
I think because we went into it from kind of stepping into it from like the Liberty side.
Yeah.
We didn't, I don't know, like you don't really put everything like that in one bag, do you?
Yeah.
So like I wasn't expecting to see cowboys.
No,
although Warwick was there, we didn't really know who a lot of the other boys
we didn't know anyone else.
Other, like obviously Ben, and we kind of knew some of the others, but it wasn't like the cowboy ones that we kind of knew.
Didn't know.
And then if you did like kind of recognise their name, you didn't put cowboy in your head.
No,
so like when we got there, we was just like, these obviously do all go into the same bracket because that is what horsemanship is. But it's like, we just completely felt really out of
like what we just stepped into.
Yeah, and was just taking it from what we thought it was going to be rather than what it really was. But yeah, it was weird. But it was great. We had a great...
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I can't wait to go back this year.
No, me neither.
So I just wanted to go through like my biggest takeaways from there. So obviously there was a few people that we recognised and knew of, and then there was people that are completely new to us that we've now started to follow, and we realised they're people that could help us on our journey. So that's what it's all about, like networking.
Or people that we knew before and didn't even realise, like
Yeah. So I think, we sat down after seeing Warwick, like do his little Q&A with the others, and we were trying to figure out, we had the programme in our hands, we were trying to figure out who the other people were, because everybody else knew who they were. But I was like, who is who?
Yeah.
And what background are they? Because there's like a bit of a description. And then we was trying to figure out
where to go
and who we wanted to see.
Because in the bigger arena, you had, like they kind of had the limelight on them for a longer period of time. And it was more like a showcase of their things that they did, or they picked like a bigger subject and they kind of showcased that subject. But in the smaller arenas, you had like Q&As, or you had like a specific thing where they tried to teach you like a little simple, not necessarily simple, but like a simpler
breakdown.
Breakdown of something. And that's where we started, didn't we? In the smaller arena with...
So Ben, it was Ben.
It was Ben, wasn't it?
So we sat down and watched Ben. So obviously I knew of Ben, and I think my first introduction to Ben Atkinson, that is I watched a video of him on Instagram years ago, and he got my attention. And I was like, oh, he's a stunt rider, he's a trick rider. And I think it was just a video of him in an indoor school with one of the grey stallions, and he was getting them to rear up. And it's a really cool video. But for me, he was very like reliant on the whips. And talk about don't judge a book by its cover, classic example. I knew of him and I just was like, oh, he's a stunt rider. Like he's not, I don't know any stunt riders, like that's not my circle of interest when it comes to like the horses, so I never really gave him much more of my attention than that. And then when I saw some of the videos he was uploading, I remember this particular one of him getting the stallion to rear up, but he was very like reliant on the whips. Wasn't harsh or anything, but he was just a little bit too whip happy for me, and in that moment I was very much like, oh, that isn't for me, I don't particularly like that.
Yeah, because when I heard Ben on Warwick's podcast, I come down the yard and was like, oh my God, you need to listen to Ben's podcast. For me, I hadn't seen any of Ben's work at all. Yeah. So it was completely fresh. I just knew who Ben Atkinson was, but didn't actually ever seen him. And then I literally was like, you need to listen. Like, he's even pulling up his own self. And we'd just been to...
No, we hadn't been yet.
Have we not?
No.
so we was going to Fred and Magalee's, and I was like, he's even talking about, he did a clinic with Fred and Magalee, Pignon, and how Fred pulled him up and he got like really like, I can't believe like, I've done all this kind of thing, and Fred was like, and he kind of really admitted his own shit, didn't he? Like, so it was
so from watching that TikTok video, I was like, oh, not even harshly judging him, but I was judging him. I was just like, oh, he's not for me. I don't like how like whip happy he is. Didn't think anything more of it. Didn't really then follow him on any social media, but could understand why he had a following, like from younger girls or people that like
younger girls.
No, but like he's a good-looking guy. It's nice with horses. So like, he had like a following. And then you said about his episode on Warwick's podcast, and I was like, okay, I should give him the benefit of the doubt and listen.
Yeah, because he was just being brutally honest and picking up his own mistakes.
And then I listened, and I was like, what a bitch on my front of judging him off that one moment on that one video. And then when I listened to the podcast, and actually for Warwick's, I started from the very beginning and worked my whole way, like the whole way through, and I wouldn't ever go in front of that, but Ben was the one episode that I paused where I was, found his episode and listened to it because of what you said, and I was like, I love what he's saying. I love how raw and vulnerable and how brutally honest he was with himself, because Warwick was intrigued to know what Ben thought of Fred, and Warwick was really intrigued by Fred, and so I was asking Ben loads of questions, and he was then going into his story of his background and how he then led to Fred, and him standing there saying that he thought he knew everything and he'd been able to do all these things with his horses, and then Fred basically in a clinic set up pulled him apart and was like, your horses don't like you, whatever he said to him, and then like stripped him down and built him back up. I was like, for him to be that raw and brutal and honest and be able to say that to everyone, I was like, respect to you
and
for
be in front of a crowd.
That's what I mean.
And take it.
Yeah, and not have your ego come back up and be like, I'm going to learn from this man, therefore beginner's mind, all of that.
Yeah.
And I loved him on that podcast, and I was like, what a bitch for judging him on one video on TikTok, Instagram, how pathetic. So I then was like, I would be intrigued to see him in the flesh in a clinic and see him actually train his horses. So when we went to the horsemanship showcase, I was like, we've got to see Ben. So then we sat there, and I think we just got the ending of whatever he was doing.
Yeah, we did. And we didn't realise where everything was.
Yeah, because we were just trying to figure it out. And I was like, I love him. And I remember looking at you at one point thinking, yes,
this is great.
This is it. And then he finished what he was doing, and I noted that he was later on in the day. So I was like, we've got to go watch him.
That was in the big arena as well, wasn't it?
That he was saying and doing. And then Ollie was straight after him, and I was like, oh, they've got a bit of like camaraderie, like they're friends. And we just was sat there because we were just enjoying whatever he was then talking about. And I was like, I feel like I know him from somewhere, but I don't obviously know him. And then loved what he was saying and showing and all the rest of it. And then
he actually come across great.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah. And I was like, how lovely that we've like been entered into this world of like there's more people like us, and they're showcasing all of their completely different horses, all completely different quirks.
Yeah, you got a real sense of like horses that are so highly strung,
and basically bringing humour to it as well, being like, look, we're in a new arena, my horses trust me but they don't know. It was so real. It was like, this is what horse training is like. My horse wants to go by the gate because its friend is there. I'm trying to provide for the audience, but like bringing it into a very like funny
it was it was really good like that, because it was raw. It was raw. So
this is horse training.
As much as they'd planned whatever they was going to do in the arena,
you have to go with what
things happened, and it was like, but you learn from those things by watching what they do in those situations.
I got from that, from like the whole perfectionist thing, is even when you're in a clinic situation, stuff goes wrong, and so it's how you deal with that and roll with it and make sure your horse is okay in that situation, and it not necessarily being like, oh, I have to perform for the audience. It's, I'm aware that you're paying to be here, but also my horse's relationship and trust in me is paramount, therefore I'm going to change it up a little bit. Because I think in one of Ben's demonstrations, he was supposed to do something and he changed it for whatever reason. And he was like, this is
I can't
normal.
remember what he said it was for, but he did change whatever he was going to be doing. Probably because he was getting questions from other people about things. Because that was the other one. You had a round pen where they was doing even simplified things in there, and they was kind of question and answers as well, weren't they? Like, so that was really good because that's where we see him first. But that was finishing. He was in there.
Yeah.
Weren't it? And then he moved to the thing, the other bit, because we missed the big one the first day.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And we was like, oh, we've missed it because we was watching.
Can't remember who else.
Something else.
That was the only thing with it, is there's so many things going on at the same time. You have to really pick who you want to see and at what time. Because I'm like, I don't want to miss anything.
But generally, it took us half a day to realise where the other arena was. Didn't it? Because we was like in amongst the shopping that obviously takes your attention as well. But we was literally like, where is this other arena? And didn't even realise. And that's how we missed Ben's main performance the first day.
But my biggest takeaway from Ben's performances was getting really clear and consistent with your cues.
Yeah.
So one of his biggest bugbears is when people cue the same way as like a rein back to a walk on. And I was like, I've never really thought about that, but I do that. Like a click is a walk on for me, but I realise I use a click to get their attention as well. So like if I walk into their stable and they've not walked back, I would, and I'm like, I'm actually asking for a rein back and a walk on with the same cue.
Yeah.
So it made me realise that I need to get really clear on what my cues are and then stick to them and be consistent, because a lot of the time it's just a miscommunication and a misunderstanding because you're not being consistent with your cues.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest thing with Ben. And then with Ollie, I loved how different all his horses were, and my biggest thing from him was, no matter all your horse experience and all your knowledge, when you are dealing with a horse, you have to deal with that individual horse. And so for me, watching him work his horses, he doesn't stick to it must be like this. He's very creative and thinking outside the box, and that's what I was really inspired by, because he had a particular horse that I think they were either teaching him like to strike out, or he was doing Spanish walk and he wasn't really getting it. And then he realised that the horse really got like a payoff for like an audible cue, as in the horse like to strike either the wall or a stable door
to
and
make
made
a sound.
shield. And so he really loved the noise of his foot hitting the shield, and then he realised that he could use that as his like motivation and reward thing. And I was like, I've never even thought about, which is stupid because we use audible cues all the time. Like we talk to them, we click, we cluck, good boy, well done, like we do it all the time. So why would it be any different with the horse striking and making the noise itself?
No, I agree. I think he was really outside of the box. Yeah, so he really did think of
how
other ways to solve a problem rather than stay with the same old and
we do it like this.
Keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until the horse doesn't do it, basically, or you cause a problem. He would go, that's not working,
what
change
can I do differently?
Yeah.
And so that's what I took as a massive like inspiration. Like you've got to think like a good trainer is someone that goes, this horse isn't getting it, what can I do differently?
Yeah, 100%. That is what a trainer is.
Get to that point, not we just keep drumming it in until they get it.
Yeah.
So that I loved.
Yeah.
And I loved like their camaraderie between them as well. Like
they all seem to get along really good. Well, didn't Ollie work for Ben for a little while?
I think so. Now they're just friends and he does his own thing.
That's it, yeah. And then it was Joe Midgley. Oh, I say his name terribly. Midgley after.
Yeah.
And he come across
lovely.
He was a really nice man. He was just like really lovely with the horses, really in tune with the mare, and didn't want to like frighten her, because you could see that there was a real trust that he didn't want to break with her. That was really lovely to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, that melted me.
It did me. It was he was really nice. And then who else was it?
Oh, but back to the Ollie situation, I was like, I really like this guy. Like I feel like I know him, and I was like, but I don't know any stunt riders. And then I was like, Oliver Phillips, like I feel like I know that name. So in the evening when we got back to the hotel, I was like Facebook stalking, and I was like, I realised where I know him from. So years ago.
Well, no, you actually said it in there, but I was like, no, because he had didn't he have a ponytail or something like that?
So when he was working, I was like, I feel like he's the guy from like a clinic, and you were like, no, he doesn't really look like that. So we actually met Ollie at a Manolo Mendez clinic years ago. I actually think he was still at school at that point.
He was really young.
He was really young. And his mum and him had brought these horses that they'd rescued from Spain to Manolo to help fix. And at that point, I swear he was still at school, so he was young.
Yeah, he was really young.
And he had a really long ponytail.
He wasn't over 16, like he was young.
And I remember that his mum was stood there and was talking and saying like he wants to be a stunt rider, he wants to do this, he wants to do that. And I don't know, he just stuck in my brain. And so to then watch Ollie at the horsemanship showcase standing there doing a clinic, I was like, oh my god, that is that boy. And I took it as a compared to when we last saw him to then what we were seeing, like how much he's achieved in that time. I found that really inspiring, and actually like we can all do that. You just got to put the time and effort in, and like well done to him, like kudos to him.
Well done to him, because he's a completely different person.
Yeah, and I loved
which we all would be.
And I loved everything
he was
doing with his horses, to riding, to training, to just being around them. And I was like, for him to get to that stage compared to what I remember him as being like a boy wanting to just be a trick rider, I was like, wow.
Yeah. No, he was completely transformed.
Yeah.
To be fair, like he gets his horses and he puts them first, and he literally done amazingly well compared to when we see him at Manolos.
And I loved how he took each horse as an individual and was like their temperament, or they like this or they don't like that, and then I know like when to push the buttons and when not to. So I think like what somebody wanted them to do, what is it when they jump?
The capriole.
And he was like, I haven't done this since blah blah because.
And it really scared you.
Yeah, so I haven't done it. But he was like, let me just ask the questions. So he was doing little bits and was like, okay, I feel like we could maybe. And I'm like, how lovely that he's not trying to please the audience, but he's generally seeing with his horse.
Yeah, he was training in that moment. Yeah.
And then the other...
There was Freddie Steele.
Yeah.
With Holly Barber.
Yeah.
We watched those, didn't we? Doing the
now I want to be a working equitation on Rose, and I want to joust you with my pole.
Well, we've actually always wanted to give it a go.
haven't we? We wanted to do it.
So like when we see it, we was like, oh my god, this looks great, like fun-wise. But they were just brilliant, weren't they?
So
they were
good.
just, again, it was just another look into a different side of training.
Yeah.
Which we use every day,
Yeah.
but it's like they've proper zoned it into this specific area, and it just looked so fun.
Yeah, like you can be disciplined and have so much fun all at the same time.
Yeah, that was really good. I would love to actually give that a go one day.
Back to the Ben comment though, the deciding factor for me was we were in the indoor arena and there was like a Q&A situation, and there was Ben and Warwick and like two other like trainers, and they were just being asked questions generally from the audience, and I can't remember what one of the ladies stood up and asked, but for me the decider for me now loving Ben was I can't remember the question, but you could tell like one of the other trainers took the mic and was answering it, but wasn't really answering it, and you could see that Ben was biting his tongue, and he wasn't rude, he wasn't offensive at all, but he wasn't going to allow that to be like the final
weren't going to be passed.
Yeah. And so he took the mic and then he spoke up, even though maybe someone on the receiving end of that might have been a bit offended, because basically he was just
he did, even at the end of it, he almost, not apologised, but he was like, I don't want people to think that I'm being horrible, I just want it to be clear.
And also for the benefit of the horse, not to please the person. And in that moment,
all there to learn something,
100%.
and that by what the answer was being given wasn't teaching anyone anything.
And
it was an avoidance.
And I was a bit like, oh, but that's not the answer.
Except we were both sitting there, weren't we? We were like,
and then he started speaking,
like,
and I thought in that moment, I was like, he's basically saying what we wanted to say, and I'm so glad he had the balls to stand and say that, and not just get swept up in that, I'll let this other person answer for me, because he didn't agree with that answer. So he was just highlighting, and I was like, yes. And I think I even did like a mental high five in my head, because I was like, go on, Ben.
We literally was like, well done.
And I was like, you're speaking for
speaking
the
up. That's it. Yeah.
Even
because
if
the moment was just about to be passed, and it was just going to be lost forever. And he literally, you could see him literally talking in his head. I need to say this, and he just.
And in that moment, I thought, you are like us, and I feel really bad for judging you previously on a stupid Instagram video when actually listening to you speak. And that's what I was going to say. I obviously knew that he'd been to Fred and had training, but when he talks and how he works his horses, I can now see the influence of Fred in him.
Oh, 100%. And
I'm like, he wholeheartedly gets it, and now I realise he's a part of like our tribe. Like we all. Like he's one of us, and I feel really bad for like completely disregarding him before, but I was like, because he stood up and said that, I was literally like high-fiving, like, come on, Ben.
I just think it's lovely when we realised that he'd gone to Fred, that someone that is potentially made it in a lot of people's eyes can always strive for more and always want better, and actually open, because a lot of people would have seen Fred come in and asked for a private lesson. Out of the eyesight of everybody else that was watching, and he's gone in there and asked and basically left himself completely open to criticism by Fred, who, let's face it, if that's something you really are passionate about, which he is, you've got your like pedestal with Fred right there, and if he tells you anything that isn't nice, it's going to make you crumble to an extent, because you want that person to want to help you, like you, whatever. And he openly left himself for rawness that day, and then did better himself, and was open about it on Warwick's podcast.
Yeah, because he could check that secret. But he was like, no, he stripped me there. He took me down to like
to tears. I don't know about that, but
but so it was a real like moment, and
I loved. Like, that's what I loved about that podcast, because he literally was like. Just raw.
That's true trust and confidence, though, to be like, I'm here for
But I think that's a strong person,
100%.
To be fair, to be able to open yourself, say it, relive it, tell other people about it, and then do it. Like, I think that's great. But and
the other thing, obviously we got to see Warwick, and the only other takeaway that I was going to quickly mention was, again, there was a lot of like trainers there that I'd never heard of, because like some of them were like Pirelli and Weston, and I just don't I'm not in them circles, I don't know them. But Miri Hackett is a Tristan Tucker student. And I'd never heard of her, but weirdly enough realised that I follow her on Instagram, so I've obviously liked a post of hers at some point, but didn't realise that was who she was. And I really liked how she was, everything she was saying and her viewpoint. I thought, I really like this girl, I like what she's saying. And there was one moment, I can't even remember what she was talking about, but she was talking about how, you learn lessons, and then like learning is like a cycle, like it's not linear. I know everyone always goes on, but like horse training's not linear, and you need to get that into your head kind of thing. But she just said one little sentence, and it really hit home with me, and it was basically, I know we've had previous conversations about this, about how you learn something and then you are presented with the same lesson again, but you learn it on you understand it on a deeper level. It's not that you relearn it.
I wonder what you was going to say. I couldn't think what she said.
But I remember in that moment thinking, you hit the nail on the head there, right? Because we've just been talking about it, how you know this, but you are like
it's a deeper meaning, or you're at a different stage with the next horse, or that horse, but like from one year to the next, that whatever it is deeper, because you've got past the initial stage one of that moment, and now you're in stage two. But it can go for it can keep going, because
on everything,
the amount of times that we've like had a conversation about something, and then a year down the line or whatever, we'll be like,
different.
have you thought about it in this way? And you're like, oh my god.
But I think that then correlated with the end of what Warwick was saying. He was like, you don't ever forget the basics, you take them with you. And it just was a really lovely crossover that I just had like a proper light bulb moment of.
I think the thing that was lovely about it is that even though everybody was from working equitation to like roping to Pirelli to cowboys, Ben, stunts, Ollie stunts, dressage, you had so many different things. Everyone always come back to like the same mould of basically where it all started and how they've approached it from a nicer point of view rather than it being so
harsh.
Or just in general, like when you think of just general horsemanship
I think that's
that is in the UK.
I think that's what Warwick was saying, how lovely it is to come to a place where you are surrounded by like-minded people. Because in America and Australia they have massive expos, don't they? And you've got the dressage people, the Western people, like and they all just kind of stay in their own little. Whereas we feel like we don't really fit into any of them because we're in our own box. But being there was like, these people are our box because. Doesn't matter which discipline you're interested in, we're all basically there because we want to have a better relationship with our horse, and that in itself is a box. No, you don't have boxes. But I
don't like boxes.
I think that is what my biggest takeaway from that was.
Yeah, 100%. I felt like we walked in there and was like, whoa. It was a bit like when we went to Anya's that time, and you walk in and you're literally like, oh my god, this is what we've been missing out on. But I feel like we've like come to Larissa and the Horsemanship Hub really late because we always have loved these types of things but had no idea that the Horsemanship Hub, we literally stumbled across Fred and Magalie's clinic and literally was like, let's just go and take Winnie, see if we can get a ride a place like a week before, was it? And then we went there and didn't realise.
But again, that was a really lovely
Larissa and realised that there was loads of clinics that she runs all the time. And Fred and Magalie have been coming for years.
And a lot of the people that we've listened to on Warwick's podcast, they're in like conversations with and have had clinics. And I'm like, how have we not discovered this? They come to the UK.
Yeah, we was really gutted that we come to it a bit late.
But maybe it was supposed to happen at that time. I don't know.
100%. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. What was your other takeaways from that?
Well, to be fair, you kind of covered it.
They were my main three.
That's it. Yeah, they are. I mean, we pretty much say the same thing anyway, don't we? So for me, I just feel like it was a great. If you get the chance to go, you should definitely go, and they do it. They're doing it this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to say next year, but it's this year.
No, 30th of November.
Yeah, and they've got Elise.
I can never say her name.
From
who was supposed to do it last year, but she didn't because I remember thinking she's the reason why we're going to go. But Warwick for me was the reason.
Yeah, Warwick was why we was going. Yeah.
Whereas this year she's going. So I'm like, we've got to go.
Yeah. Yeah, Warwick was exactly why we was going. If Warwick hadn't have been on the name list, we probably wouldn't have gone.
No, he was
because we booked it quite late.
Because I didn't really know who else was going.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah.
But I was like, Warwick's coming, let's go.
Yeah, and then we realised that Ben was going, so we was like, oh, actually, there's other people, and then
we've left with a whole list of new
people to follow and learn from. But it was really good, and if you get a chance, definitely go again. And to be fair, giving Larissa a little tag here, we should probably, like, anything that she's got going really now is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely clinic to go on with Winnie when we took her to Fred and Magalie's.
Yeah, maybe we'll do Fred and Magalie as our next
we need to talk about that,
because we'll do that one.
And we are going to go back this year, because they've got that this year, and we are going to go to, hopefully, Warwick's little...
Yes, he's got his Journey on Summit.
In England.
June?
Birmingham though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to go to that as well.
Yeah, we've got a few things in the diary, so hopefully we can do our takeaways from them ones.
Yeah. How exciting.
I can't
Horse
wait.
Camp 2024.
Whoop whoop.
Right. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye.